Welcome back, everybody, to The Truth About Addiction. Today, I'm interviewing a very special guest who is a celebrity in Israel and who is making her mark here in America. We recently met at a speaking event where I shared for 10 minutes, and she came up to me after and wanted to connect. And here we are having an incredible interview about the wild story that is her life and what she is doing with what she has lived through. Shina Rae Reynolds was born in Israel and was an actress for 20 years. She came to America and studied all the aesthetic facial injections and was a celebrity makeup artist for years. She has overcome multiple traumas and built a big, beautiful life out of tragic situations. Her first book is coming out next month, and she is on a mission to be a motivational speaker and help others transform their pain into power. Let's get started.
Never good enough is leaving me for dead. But perfection's just a game of make-believe. Hey, gotta break the pattern, find a new reprieve. Breaking the circuit, making it work.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Truth About Addiction. I have been looking forward to this talk since we met. I have a woman named Shina here, and I'm going to let her tell you her last name because it's so much more interesting when she tells you the story versus me saying it. However, Shina happened to be at a recent networking event that I got asked to speak at. And for reasons that perhaps neither of us can explain, she came up to me because she felt a cord sort of connecting her to me. And the weight and depth of my story in the 10 minutes that I had to share it was connecting her to me such that we become friends and we have lots of big, grand visions for what we want to do and who we want to help. And I'm so looking forward to this conversation because you want to talk about a story of tragedy to triumph again and again and again, and broadening the spectrum of addiction into something that is way more complicated than substance abuse. Well, this is the conversation for you. So without any more hesitation, Shina, hi.
Hi, how are you? I'm so excited to be here. Like you said, like when I heard you speak for the first time, I was like, oh my God, it's okay to talk like that in America. It's okay to be vulnerable because my perception of American women, it's like, sorry if I sound offensive, but it's like superficial. They just talk about nails, about this, about that. Nobody really go deep and tell their secret and vulnerabilities. Everything is always good end story. When you even see a movie, you never see American with a bad ending. So when I saw first time a doctor, a beautiful woman, talented, like how you seemed, right? Because I didn't know you. And then you open and showed your vulnerability to me. It was, oh my God, a breath of fresh air. And I did see the light in the end of the tunnel because I'm not going to be just outside Israeli talking about my vulnerability. It's also American white doctor speaking about our vulnerability. I know it sounds horrible to say it like that, but was my perception, and I'm here for a long time. So you're a breath of fresh air.
Oh, I so appreciate that. I could say 1,000 things, but what I want to start with for a moment, because we're going to circle back to that and why it's so important to share from a healed place, healed in quotations, right? Healing, because we're not ever done with that. You know, what is on our hearts.
Exactly.
And that I think has so much to do with why you and I want to speak on stages, is because we want other people to feel less afraid, less alone. We want to let people know there is
Last
hope.
week.
Yeah. So we're going to get into that, but because I left a cliffhanger about your last name, can you tell people the
Yeah.
story of that, please?
Okay, so you know how in America it's always black and white. It's either you Palestinian or Israeli, Jewish or Muslim, all this, you know, how the perception of Americans. So in Israel, a lot of us, Jews and Muslims, are really blend in. You see Muslims with Jewish names and Jewish with Muslims names, and you know, everything is, you know, like that because we are kind of mixed.
Hmm.
And from my dad's side, I'm Arab and Russian, right? And my dad's original name is Jabali, which in Arabic means mountains.
Hmm.
And when I was young in Israel as an actress, you could not use this name. Not because it's racist and they hate Arabs, it just the name sounds very heavy.
Hmm.
So I got married based on my marriage, it was Reynolds, right? So when I started as an actress, Jabali was out of the picture. Reynolds, for Israeli accent, Reynoldas, they call us like that. It sounds like very German, you know, harsh. So they did a huge article on me in the newspaper, and she said, "We cannot use this name, Reynoldas." And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "No, no, no, we call you Shina Rae, Ray. It sounds very American." And she said, "Don't worry, in the Kabbalah, Ray is one of the 172 names of God, Ray, the king, you know?"
Mm.
So I said, "You know what? Okay, I'm taking this, you know, so I need to become Shina Rae." But now as I start to develop as a motivational speaker and, you know, speaking about Israel, Palestine, all these topics, I don't want to have this perception that I had before of like a sexy actress or whatever it is. So I just decided to go back to that name. But sometimes when they ask me, I say Sheena Jabali Reynolds, you know.
I love that so much. So can you take me back in time and tell me what your childhood was like?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I grew up in the Middle East in Israel to a blended family. I had a black grandfather from Ethiopia. It's actually not really Ethiopia. It's between Yemen and Ethiopia or Sudan. I don't know exactly the originality of it because my grandfather walked from Yemen to Israel by foot. He was an orphan, 15, 14 years old, came by himself. So this is story up on story up on story. And my grandmother, she was born to a Syrian mother, like Arab Syrian, and her father was Russian, but she never knew him, right? So it's very mixed. From my mother's side, my mom was Arab Jewish. She came from Morocco. She actually born in Morocco. And it was very mixed. In my home, we would speak Arabic. Then I would listen to people speaking Russian. Like all my neighbor was like Russians, right? They spoke in my mom's house Arabic, which Moroccan Arabic, French, Hebrew. My dad's side, they were speaking Arabic. Then, and I'm very good with languages. So I was like speaking and hearing a lot of languages, you know. So it was easy speaking languages because you could understand more point of views, more perception than when I travel. I kind of make this stronger, like try to practice all the time. So yeah, but talking to the history, as you said, I grew up in a household when my dad was went to jail for murder when I was 3 years old, and my mom, from my mom's side, to begin with, they didn't want her to marry my dad because he was a blend of, you know, Arab and Jewish and, you know, and black. And she married him in spite of her family wishes. And then my dad got into this problem. Actually, he was not a killer, not a murderer. He just got involved in a problem, seeing two people fighting and got involved. And these guys threatened his life for like a year and actually physically hurt his friends and almost killed him and put a grenade in our house. So eventually it's either my dad's life or his life. Now, with that being said, as a 3-year-old, when you don't know nothing, my life from the moment I born was like a drama, seriously drama. My mom had a kid before me. He died after a month. Then she had me. When she had me, I was in incubator for 3.5 months, born 650 kilogram,
Mm.
grams, sorry, not kilogram, grams. I was like literally like this. They told my mom, go home, don't get attached because she's gonna die. She's too small, but we have to keep her in the incubator. So she never hugged me, never kissed me, never wanted to be attached because I was afraid to lose another baby. Right. And then when I was 3, my dad left and went to jail. So she was a single mom with 2 kids, trying to make it, struggling in the Middle East. Imagine like 70s, 80s.
Mm.
It was really crazy because in my perception, I always saw a lot of the men's like predators, not just men. Honestly, it would be stupid to say men, but I think human being in general, because always somebody had something bad to say, like a remark. And I saw my mom struggling and working and driving and trying. And it was so many haters around her, and she was gorgeous. My mom looked like literally like Farrah Fawcett. She was so beautiful. Everywhere we go, we couldn't go to the beach with her. We couldn't go anywhere. Everybody was always looking at her. Remember at the time that it was no plastic surgery or Botox, she was like gorgeous. And it was a problem because her husband was in jail.
Mm.
And she come from that generation that she has to be very loyal to her husband. And you don't divorce your husband when it's a problem. You support him. You take your kids every other week to visit him in jail. And I could tell you hundreds of stories from the prison walls, you know. And then I got injured when I was a baby first, because I got injured 3 times in my life. First, I got injured when I was a baby in my left hand because I was allergic to iodine, and they put here iodine. Sorry, they put here iodine, and I was allergic, and it's gave me a severe reaction. Then when I was 22, I got injured in a terror attack. I broke all my fingers, and then I had nails and stuff here. Thank God it was in the same hand because at least only one part. That's how I saw it. And then the third time, also it was a bombing. I fell and hit my head and my back. I had a surgery. So all this crazy childhood, all the problems, you know, with my dad being in jail, and my mom is a single mom, and me with learning disability, dysmorphia, dyslexia, you know, all this HDID, you know, and I refuse to take medication because I really do think that if you really put your mind into it and you make the effort, you know, and try harder, I think you can cope. Even though I'm coping with a little bit of the, you know, but in the other hand, I can do things that other people cannot do. So even though all this crazy childhood, you know, it does disturb you as a young adult, you know, when you grow up. So as a young woman, I was smoking cannabis and drinking a little bit of alcohol. I didn't know I'm allergic, by the way. I was drinking a little bit, but you know, always kind of on the edge. I knew that it's wrong because my dad was an addict, because my dad never used drugs in his life. But when he left the prison and come home, because it was a model prison, he studied a law, and he helped a lot of people in the prison to get out with a better case. And he was writing their letters to, you know, Supreme Court and everything. But when he left the prison, he couldn't cope. He didn't know the money. He didn't know nothing. Remember, he went into prison when it was the 70s. Then he left in the 90s. It was completely different world. And he started using heroin. And I remember those times. Like, he would sit and do it next to me, and we had like deep conversations. And, you know, as a young woman, when you admire your father, this is the first man in your life. And my dad was a very intelligent person, right? He was always like giving me books when I was a kid to read, like Socrates, you know, like really complicated, you know, books for a little girl. He talked to me about a lot of psychological stuff, and but he didn't really have a lot of boundaries because he also speak with me about what's going on in jail a lot of the times, you know. And as a young woman, I was always looking for that pattern of my dad. And, you know, I was the opera singer and playing the piano my whole childhood. I had a soprano voice. And as soon as my dad started to do more visitations at home, and, you know, they get part-time working outside, I start to change. I changed the people. Instead of hanging out with musicians, people from the academy, classic academy, I start hanging out with people that more like my dad. And you get addicted to that, how do I say, exciting feelings, you know? And with that being said, you know, in my earlier childhood, my dad's brother used to come to our house, and he was living in India until today. He's in his 70s, he's still in India. And he's a meditation and yoga instructor for like more than 40 years. So since 7 years old, he used to sit us down and say, you have to relax, you have to study meditation. And he teaches, I know all the songs by heart even today. And it was like in between a lot of worlds. So I had the outside world when I was trying to prove something all the time, that insecure child that had to prove that I'm from a better family, or don't talk about my dad. And then it was a different child with a different demeanor that was want to touch the edge and want to try certain things and get into this addiction mentality, to be on the edge all the time, to do things that it's always close to death somehow. Like I always had this dance between normal and death. And when I say death, like if I knew it's a very dangerous area, I would go there on purpose. If I knew that something like happened, I always wanted to be in the fire, you know. And
Can I take a second here? There's so much that you said, and one of the things you said that's really striking as a mom, and I think about my own journey to motherhood, and very different than your mom's, but how different the scenarios were of my pregnancy with my son, who's my firstborn, versus my daughter, the closeness with my son versus my daughter. I think in part as a result of the pregnancy, postpartum, and aftermath experience. And I'm picturing, 3, 5, 7, 8, 12-year-old Shina, whose mom thought she was going to die, and so didn't visit and didn't do all the sort of natural innate things to shower a baby with love. And
on top of it, it's actually continued until today.
Okay. So I'm, and then also, like, your dad is gone for a long period of time. And so before we get to your dad coming back, and now he's in this raging addiction. So no wonder, chaos and dysfunction is normalized, not just to your mind, but to your body, to your nervous system,
to your automatic paradigm.
Right. I'm just wondering, like, in that in between, you're a young girl who needs a dad, and your dad is not there, although you're visiting him. But when you are, you're hearing things and probably seeing things that you're not supposed to, because you're so young. So you've got this really difficult fractionalized relationship with dad. What's going on with mom? And what are you learning in those formative years about your parents, about safety, about self-worth, about performing and pleasing? Like, what were the things you were like, these are the things I need to do in order to function and be safe in this world, based on what I'm learning from my parents? And I'm asking grown Shina that. But when you look back at 5-year-old, 7-year-old, 12-year-old, before dad comes back, what did that look like?
I'll explain. First of all, remember that my mom came from an Arab mentality, very Arab mentality. Like, you had to be virgin. No way a guy is going to touch you, because it's embarrassing. I didn't even think of having sex. Even if I thought about it, I felt guilty and ashamed, and it was disgusting. How can I even, when you feel as a little kid, like horny or any sexual feeling, for me, it was ashamed to feel like that.
What would she say to you that you were internalizing that? Give me an
example.
Even
she was a sexy herself. She looked good and sexy, but I could see her guilt for feeling like that, because her duty was to be only for her men. You understand? And she's like, like, don't talk like that. If I would put posters of Marilyn Monroe or Madonna, she would freak out. She was like, oh my God, they're prostitutes. What are you doing? You're putting photos of prostitutes at your room? Like, it was a big deal, even though today she's not like that anymore. She also had her journey. But as a little kid, I would give it to my dad because my dad always had these little conversations with me. And also remember, because he's in prison, he would send me every week at least 2 letters, beautiful letters. Like the paper would be beautiful with hearts and flowers or whatever. And he writes very articulate, very beautiful. He would say, listen, even if you're in a room with 20 men, remember, you got something that they want. You cannot give it away. You have to think. You have to use your head. Like he would always, I didn't understand it back then, but he literally guided me how to be a strong woman among many men or in this savage, chaotic world underneath, if you say. And I was sexually abused, not raped, but sexually abused when I was in, I think, 8 or 7. We're sitting in a Shabbat dinner table, and the babysitter's boyfriend was touching me between my legs. Now imagine we're sitting at a table with 20 people for Shabbat dinner. It was event or something, that like something holiday or something. And I'm sitting there, like strike with that. Like I didn't know what to do. But I remembered what my dad told me. I knew I cannot go to my mom and mention anything like that because it would look like, what are you even saying? Like, you're a little girl. I didn't know how to phrase it. I couldn't put my thoughts together how to even say that. But I remember my dad's words, and this guy never came near me. Since was like, and I'm happy it happened that early, that scenario, because it really woke me up to the world that I'm not safe. And I have to be awake 24/7 because it could be in any given moment that a predator is around. Now, you build a personality that you're in a survival mode 24/7. You always have to look back. You question everybody. You lose, especially when you don't have a mother love that caress you, love you, kiss you, tell you that you're worthy. My sister was the beautiful girl. I was like short. I had very thin hair, my scars, and I was like the kid to be ashamed with. And I'm not blaming my mom, but I totally understand, where it's coming from.
Sure.
And it always was in my head, how do I cope? How do I be accepted in school? Because when I go to school, your dad is a murderer, your grandfather is black, da 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 da. You have an Arab name, it's something on top of something on top of something on top, like you can't get away from that. But it opened me as a person, to teach me about compassion. I would always advocate for the underdogs in school, or I would do secretly things. Like I had a girl in school that she had like really hands like this, like I don't know, something from birth, and nobody loved her. And one day she's sitting crying that nobody ever gave her something for her birthday. So I went and I saved money and bought a gift and secretly give it to her, but she didn't know I did it. So I always try to, my goal was since early age is to make people feel good. But along this way, I was hurting myself because I always neglected my own feelings. I always wanted to do everything for other people, help people, give people, like I would go to a Holocaust survivor, clean their home, cook the meals, take their groceries. I helped everybody you can imagine. I was working and my sister would come, oh, I don't have money, take. I don't have this, take. But I completely neglected myself.
What's your understanding of why you did that? Like as a grown woman now, when you look back and say, man, I just made so many choices where I took care of everybody else and not myself.
Because I know exactly where it comes from. Because when you grow up in a state of mind and surrounding that you're not enough, right? It comes to every aspect of your life. You're not enough as a wife. You're not enough as a girlfriend. You're not enough as a friend. You're not enough as a human being. You're not enough. You just want to satisfy everybody because if I do something good to you and you're smiling, then oh my God, you give me a few minutes of grace. And everybody needs someone that reassure them and tell them something good. And when you don't have it in your close surrounding in your home, you look for that everywhere. I think I'm just so lucky. I really see myself as a fortunate, lucky person because I could easily be in prostitution or like heavy crystal meth or something like that. I mean, I did touch a little bit of drugs when I was a kid, but because I saw what it did to my dad and to a lot of other women when it comes to prostitution, I was terrified. Like, I tried here and there, and then I said, you know what? It's not for me. I can't do it. And don't forget that I had this world that I was doing classical music, singing the opera, and still going to the conservatorium. I don't use that in English, and practicing every week. So I had something to compare. Like I had a comparison from this type of language to this type of language, with this type of people to this type of people. And I was always battling between the world of meditation, music, culture, to a world of underdog, terrorist mentality, chaotic mentality. They always have something to prove. What car you're driving? Who do you know? What is your power? You can beat this guy. You can beat this guy. So I was really growing in between two worlds. You know that.
So, oh, there's so much. If I take everyone listening now to your dad coming back and then the introduction of his addiction being right in front of you and there being absolutely no boundaries, which by the way, I can deeply relate to because it looked different, but very much the same thing that was happening in my house. And you said you started to, not surprisingly, cross those lines yourself, right? And dabble and experiment. And as you're doing that, are you able, and for how long are you straddled between these two worlds? You know, on the one hand, this prestigious arts world, does that end up leading you into acting, and also the addiction world and the, you know, getting to the edge of the cliff and almost jumping off of it, that world? How are you doing both at the same time? How are you managing that? And what is the breaking point where you either choose one world or the other? Like, take me through that.
First, I think, honestly, when I think about it, I think I'm very, very, and I'm not saying it from narcissism or egoistic. I think I'm a very, very strong person in my mind, you know? I've never met anybody who's strong as me without sounding, you know, horrible, right? Sometimes I sit and I think if somebody went through what I went through, they would be dead, long gone, you know, or, you know, because when you use drug, what's the common denominator to someone who uses drugs, alcohol, or addiction in general?
Yep.
It's a void that you have to fulfill all the time. It's an emotional void, right? You have to fulfill it. And I understood it in a very early age. I saw my dad feeling as a failure as a dad, right? Because when he left prison, my mom became a multimillionaire building this business. Obviously, he helped behind the scenes because he was funding it, and she knew that it's someone there, you know. Nobody can take protection because, you know, in a lot of this business in Israel, people take protection, right? So she had him as a man. But when he left, he felt as a failure, right? He get out. He's got a very strong, opinionated woman on the verge of crazy, psychotic narcissism. And I had to navigate between Jekyll and Mr. Hyde on a daily basis. It makes you a super expert, you know, navigating between Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, because you have to really create scenarios, plan scenarios, prepare for the outcome of every word that comes out of your mouth, or God forbid, if you do something that she doesn't like, she explodes, right? So it makes me an expert with dealing with unstable people, right? And I developed some kind of patient, right? How to be patient, how to wait for a long time. You cannot just come and say what you want, because it's a stronger person that can scream at you, hit you, whatever. So I developed crazy resilience and patience. I
Mm.
developed a sense of you don't always get what you want, right? I developed a self-talk with myself, which is the most important. When you have a conversation with yourself on a daily basis, right? Even if it's not healthy at first, but at least you develop a conversation, you question yourself, right? Because my first 15 years of my life goal was to die. I only wanted to die. I didn't want to live. I always plan how I make a suicide, and I'm not a suicidal person. Like, I'm not crazy. I've never took pills. I've never took any medication, but my goal was to die. Just I know that from an older perspective, not to deal with my mom, not to deal with the chaos around me, not because I wanted to die, because I loved life. I was talented and fun and have a great sense of humor, but I just couldn't deal. Oh, oops, sorry, I had a phone call. Couldn't deal with that, couldn't deal with what she did, like how she treated me in general. And that made me really, really resilient. And I decided, when I saw women around me, I was literally thinking about my dad's words. He said, you don't want to be that girl that everybody just use and throw like a nylon bag, plastic bag. That's what he told me. He said, you want to be strong. You want to be in a room and everybody respect you. My dad always tell me these things. And I think he was very smart because he knew he doesn't have the power to, give me anything outside. So these letters and phone calls, little by little, how people doctrinating you and
Yeah.
putting little drops of, and I think his specific doctrination was amazing because he gave me a list of books to read. He told me what not to watch. He told me how to talk. He talked to me about my language, how it's important that I speak languages and open and expand my mind, because my dad is very open-minded versus my mom that was very primitive. My dad was in a biracial house. He was in this conflict of three things, and he was very, very open-minded, smart,
And at
And
the same time, your dad did heroin in front of you. So how confusing is that to you that he's given
no,
you
I'm
this?
talking before the heroin.
Right.
He was,
So you've got all these amazing what you're not getting from your mom, you're getting in spades from your dad. Thank
yeah,
God you had something. And then all of a
but it's
sudden he
not
gets
healthy.
home.
In general, listen, in
Right.
general, I'm not going to justify, because a lot of people, they take what they can get. This is their family. It is what it is. You love them no matter what. Da, da, da. It's not that I don't love my family, right? Don't get me wrong. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
with that being said, it was not a healthy environment. They're not healthy in a sense of normal, routine, everyday life. But with that being said, it's no win-win situation with specific scenario. You can grow in the most normal and normative family and still turn out crazy. So in my case, I think it made me like really cautious, organized, calculate. A lot of people that see me and know my background, like they would assume that I would, be partying, go do cocaine, do this, do that. And then they say, oh my God, you're such a nerd. I'm
But
not
at
a
the time you said you started dabbling, right?
yeah.
So tell me about the time when you were going back and forth between these worlds.
It
And
was the emotion.
then did you have a rock bottom moment?
Yes, I have a few. I had a few rock bottom moments that I decided, like, I was smoking cannabis for 3 years excessively,
Mhm.
like literally smoking bongs. I don't know if you know, like
Yeah.
bongs and chillums, like Indian chillums. And I'm super tiny, small. One day, I think the chillum was they dip this. It's hash. It's not cannabis in Israel, and it's hash that come from Egypt, from Sinai, right? So usually they put the hash in opium and they put it under the ground for a few months, so the opium suck, and then when you smoke it, it's really, really strong. It's like literally, explode in your mind. So I was smoking this chill in a party I think I was 17 or something, and I go to the mirror in the bathroom and I see a very old woman. I see myself as an old woman. I had a trip. I see my hair. I'm like, oh my, I'm looking at the mirror, going back, going like crazy. And I tell my friend, I'm an old woman, look at my face. And she said, no, you're not old. I'm like, look at me. I was tripping, you know?
Mm.
And then I had like maybe 6 months of severe anxiety, feeling really bad, anemia, horrible. And then I was like thinking, what am I doing? Who is these people I'm hanging out? What am I doing with my life? Like alone. Nobody told me this, right? Nobody came and said, oh, you shouldn't do it. Or literally, I give these scores to myself because I was sitting when they said, hell no, this is not going to happen. I'm not going to be in this place. This is not my future. I don't deserve it. And I realized when you're smoking, it could be crystal meth, hash, or you're doing cocaine, whatever it is, the majority of the people you see around you, it doesn't matter if they're multimillionaire, it doesn't matter if they're celebrities, it doesn't matter if they're beautiful, it doesn't matter if they're connected, whatever they are, I don't care what you tell me, right? They all have something that is unresolved with themselves. And they're not in a paradigm of growth. They're not in a paradigm of finding solutions and expand their mind to explore who they are as a biological computer. Because we have everything inside us. We don't need all this shit, right? You know what I mean? We don't need drugs and alcohol and all that. We got everything inside. And if you're in a paradigm of expanding and exploring and understanding, you don't need all this. And if I come to myself very, very sincerely, right? Very honest. I come to Shina and I say, hey, Shina, do you need this? Is that making you feel good when you go to sleep at night and your throat is sore and you feel, you wake up to work because I was always also working with my mom as a teenager. Like, you can go to school, you can go to work, like you always like, you know, and I'm very skinny. I look like a junkie even if I don't do drugs, if I just smoke. And I question myself every day until one day I said, you know what? I've had it. And then I realized when you're done with substance or whatever it is, also I had the rock bottom. One of them I want to tell you, I had a clinical death. I was drinking alcohol. I drugged it until I was 23, you know, with alcohol a little bit. Cannabis, I stopped smoking when I was 19, yeah. And I was not living in Israel. I was living in England, and I came to Israel for a visit the first day. And remember, my dad is an atheist. He doesn't believe in God. And I was actually in the wedding. In the end of the wedding, you know, I come from England. I dress nice, a little bit sexy. I think I know it all. Da da da. I had a chip on my shoulder. I think, oh, no, I'm not Israeli. I'm English. I'm like fuck you mentality, you know, and with nothing to sustain them, right? And I was taking shots, you know, like little shots of tequila, I think it was. And then I drink like 2 cups of wine. I start feeling weird. Now, we were leaving the wedding and I was driving with 2 cousins, aunt and a cousin, the Moroccans, Jews. So the slang is very Moroccan, Arabic, Israeli. And, you know, everything is dramatized. So as we sit in the car, I'm in the middle and, you know, they sit in the front and I'm holding like that with the chairs, right? And I'm like, like, I can't breathe. I'm like, I can't take it out. I can't take it out. I can't take it in. I can't do like, you know, like this. And I felt like I'm losing it. And then in my head, I started a conversation. Like, God, what are you doing? You brought me to the Holy Land to kill me? You brought me to the Holy Land so I would promise I'll become an Orthodox Jew and I will never do these things again? You know I'm not going to be religious unless I know you really exist. This is exactly word to word of the conversation I had in my head. I'm an atheist. I'm not going to believe in you if I don't have proof. Like, this is what I said. And then, second later, I felt kind of weird float in my body. Like you're shifting to somewhere else. And then I'm touching myself. I'm looking. There's nobody. Nobody. I had nobody. And then I see myself on the floor, on the ambulance. You know how you have the ambulance bed, but you have also like, it's not really a bed. It's like something they put on the floor to take you from the floor to the bed, like with, you know. So I was laying there like this. And then I see myself laying there like I'm dying, like I'm dead. You understand? And I freaked out. I completely emotionally, I freaked out. And then something weird started to happen. I start to relax. I start feeling good. start feeling like emotional orgasm. It sounds crazy, but I start feeling loved. No burden, you say, like on your heart. No pain. I didn't want nothing. I was not hungry. I was not tired. I was just happy. And then somebody behind me started talking to me and taking me to these rooms made out of clouds, you know? It's like a full clinical death, right? And then when I got back to life, I said, I'm not going to do it anymore. Like, I'm not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize with my health. That's it. But the biggest struggle, the other struggle starts. You don't do drugs. You don't do alcohol. You don't do cigarettes. You don't do nothing like that. But you want other things to change that. What are those things? Those things are emotional addictions. You want obsessed love. You want to prove yourself. You take things when you do normal things that other people do. Like if I would watch a movie, I wouldn't watch one. I go to rent a movie, I rent 20 movies. You understand? I want to save money to go. I don't go just to England. From England, I take the train to France, to this, to that. Everything I do was, extravagant until I push it to the limit. And then I go back and forth to the meditation, in between meditation. I can do the meditation. Then I go back to my habits. Then I can try meditation. I go back to India. I go to Vipassana. I took Vipassana for 2 weeks, not to speak. Then I'm like in a rush to do something, like I was.
Can I ask you, in this period after the clinical death, so this is two pretty serious rock bottom moments. I think the second more serious than the first. And what a wild story. What is now your relationship with a higher power? When you've been brought back to life, so to speak, is your faith anything other than there is no such thing? What does that look like?
I'll explain. I was not attached to God, to the universe, to nothing until 5 years ago, believe it or not. I was always spiritual because, after I had my son and everything, I was very, in tune with always doing the right thing and karma and this and that, but I didn't really know, And I came to America all by myself with a little kid, gave up on an acting career, like, being famous, being my pictures everywhere. All of a sudden, I'm not the damaged child. So people call me Shina Rae, Shina Rae. Like, can I have your picture? Can I have this? Can I have that? And for me, it was a burden because inside I didn't feel that, beautiful, famous, whatever. I felt ugly and deformed and all this. And then I came to America and all of a sudden I was nothing again, but nothing completely. Nobody knew who I am. Working my ass off, literally. And then online, because I always take videos online and talking and everything, I have followers and this and that. A stalker starts stalking me, a woman, right? And she gave me the best lessons of my life. Listen to this. She was stalking me, and not just stalking me. I'm talking slashing my tires, harassing me, taking me to court, blaming me, defamation of character everywhere you can imagine. Like if you talk to people from my community, some people say, oh, she's amazing, I love her. Some people say, yeah, we heard the FBI look for her. She's a criminal. She run from here, she run from there. Nothing attached to the truth. She would go online every single day and write that I'm a Mossad agent, a Muslim, I run from the FBI. They look for me in Miami. They look for me in New York. They look for me. Literally terrorizing my life. My son got investigated because she said he killed her dogs. My son was 15. At the time, it's going on 8 years, right? To make a long story short, remember, I was a child that being bullied, right? As a kid. I come to America. Nobody knows me. I'm trying to live my life. And then I had this psycho on my back saying all these things that not even attached to the truth, right? And as an Israeli woman is living in an Israeli community, my community didn't believe me because how I look, because they prejudged me. Yeah, she was an actress. She looks sexy. She had fake boobs. She's probably this and that, and start blaming me and bullying me even more, right? I lost my business because she was harassing me online. I become to a point that I live in my car with my son, right? Living in the car, embarrassed to tell my family because I'm a strong person, right? Scared for my life. I don't have clients anymore. I don't have a job. I'm sick as hell. I was very sick. I didn't know what's going on with me. Sitting in the hospital, I said, I don't want to be Jewish. I don't want to be a part of any religion. I hate God. And I'm going to do it on purpose to all the Jews. I'm going to live in a Christian area, eat pork. I don't want nothing to do with Jews. That's what I literally did. I went to live in Riverside, California. I rented a room from a guy. They gave me a really cheap room to live with my son, and I take care of his pets and everything. I fainted in his house. I had a problem with my heart. I went to a Christian hospital on the hill in a what's the name of this place? Twin Peaks somewhere. I sit in the hospital bed. You could see the crosses everywhere. Not one Jewish or Israeli person, of course. And I took the Torah, the Jewish book, the Tehillim. And I open it and I pray, loud, not really loud, but loud. And then I say to myself in loud, God, if you really exist, I know I've never believed in you. I know it sounds crazy. I'm so not a religious advocate. I'm so not into this solicitation of religion, completely not. But I swear to God, that's what happened. And I said, God, if you really exist, I know I did something wrong, but I promise you it's because I didn't have guidance. That's what I literally said. Please expand me, expand my mind to open to the world and understand what's going on. If you really exist, I want one little sign, just one little sign. Not a minute later, when I speak loud in Hebrew, there is a Jewish doctor who speaks Hebrew going and said, what are you doing here reading the Torah in a Christian hospital? He goes like that, I swear to God. Right? He said the prayer with me, I swear to God, it was weird. Okay, now through these years that I'm telling you, with a stalker, living in America, sleeping in my car, cleaning Airbnb houses, working my ass off, nobody knows me, putting my ego really down, which it was amazing because I learned how to come from a different angle to the world. I listened to Joe Dispenza, Dr. Proctor, this and that, all these amazing mentors. And I started meditating on it, right? And I said, I'm going to look at the world like it's my bowl of wishes. I could put like a little note and wish for this, wish for this, wish for this. Now, remember, with all that being said, I'm dyslexic, dysmorphia. It's hard for me to write. I'm reading very slowly. I'm like but I start learning, but listening. I start learning how you buy a house, how you take a loan, what is credit. I teach myself all these things that I had no clue how to do before. Because I was just also so afraid, remember? Because I was nothing. Little me, what do I know? It's not my country, it's America, I'm not American. I speak 5 languages that I also teach myself, but you understand, still, I didn't think of myself as someone smart or talented. I always thought I'm nothing, And I start learning and learning and learning. And I was injecting before, in LA when it was still legal to inject as a aesthetic, cosmetic aesthetic, how do you say, injector. And I said, I want to inject again. I love injecting. I love correcting people. I love fixing scars. I love when a woman tells me, oh my God, you may be beautiful, and they cry. I love it. This is like orgasm for me. Because I feel so deformed. When I fix someone else, it makes me heal from the inside. And I knew I have this extra X factor for the healing, not just the physical, superficial Botox bullshit. I knew I could heal them from the inside because who understands them more than me? And I said, I'm flying to Turkey. That's it. I'm flying to Turkey. I flew to Turkey. I took so many courses. I flew to Texas. I had a year. I fly everywhere. Russia, took this doctor, took one-on-one courses, Brazilian doctor, Russian doctor, everywhere you can name it. Spend all my money. and I become a really good injector, like a really good injector. I moved to Texas. I start working. I got my license, everything. Then my stalker put posts again. She's injecting without a license. She's not a real injector. She's this, she's that. Like, so it was like a half and half in my community. Some of them liked me. Some of them thought of, I'm a fraud.
Mm.
And my son, imagine every morning you wake up, you see your picture all over the internet, writing shit about you. I collapsed. I said, I'm working. I'm making a career. I'm with my son. What else can I did everything. I can't live anymore. This bullying, literally between you and me, I felt like I want to die. It took me right. You know how it is when it's like you have relapse, but the relapse are not physical, they're emotional.
Yep.
Relapse to your childhood that I'm deformed, ugly, the terror attack that I was injured, the bully kid, your father is a murderer, you short, you skinny, you ugly, like all of this together, it came and I felt all of this, what I just told you here, like suffocating. I can't live anymore. I wanted to die. I literally had a packet of pills in front of me. And I said, I came all the way to America. I'm a failure. I'm never going to be successful. It's never going to happen. This stalker sitting here terrorizing me. Everybody believer in my community. Nobody wanted to help me in the Jewish community. What am I going to do? I tried. I moved to a Christian area. Everywhere I go, she's like, what am I going to do? And then I spoke with my friend. She said, I don't remember you being, you've been through so much. You're going to give up now and give her that power? Girl, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. And you've been already a celebrity once. You know show business very well. You got to talk about it. You got to talk about all that. How many women been bullied online like you, terrified for their life because of one person? You can't give her that power. And I start manifesting. Boom. After trying for a year, I bought a house. Little me, I don't even know how to write English without Siri. When I got the approved to get the first mortgage, I was like sitting like in the mirror and saying, I bought a house like this in America. I bought a house in America, like talking like, like crazy to myself, like me, little me, 4'11", 95-pound Shina. I bought a house in America. It's a big deal, And then the second house, and people look at me, people start changing their demeanor towards me, like Israelis. Oh, I didn't know you smart. Oh, you really? Oh, did you buy this house? Like, and then I realized it's all in our mind. It's the perception of people. You can literally do anything because life is like a box of chocolates, You never know what you're gonna get, but you damn sure can plan and create your own future. And I said, every day I was talking to Joe Dispenza in the mirror. I had his picture on my mirror that I put from a paper. And I said, Joe, I want to see you. I want to meet you. You're so amazing. Because of you, by now I have to meet Joe Dispenza. And guess what happened? I went to the airport and I was looking very good that day. I love that. This handsome guy that I know very well because I was sleeping with him every night, falling asleep to my subconscious, meditating every morning, meditating every night. Joe Dispenza, I love you. And then he's looking at me. He said, oh, you have very beautiful eyes. I look at you, you have like amazing eyes. I'm like, Joe, this, like, I know. Oh my God, Joe, I love you. Because of you, I bought a house and a second house. And we started talking for like 2 hours. I missed my flight. He almost missed his flight. It was like, take my number, let's talk, I'm like, fuck. Like things happen. Every single thing I manifest. I swear to God, I'm not just telling you. And then I met Bruce. I went to a red carpet because I didn't tell you, but I did makeup to some of the girls from Housewives of Beverly Hills. I used to do like a lot of makeup in America and eyebrows. I had a business for eyebrows, makeup school. I had a few businesses regarding the beauty. And they used to invite me to a lot of red carpet events. I went to a red carpet. I saw Bruce Cardina. And Bruce, He's tough. He could be like a Nazi sometimes, like Nazi mentality, we call it in Israel. And I saw him and I said, I want to be a motivational speaker. You got to help me. It was like almost 2 years ago. Who are you? What do you mean? What do you want to be? Who are you? You want to be a motivational speaker? He was looking at me like this delusional little Ruth Westheimer Jewish woman, whatever. Like, because I saw the look in his eyes. Why I'm saying Ruth Westheimer? Because I swear to God, that was the look at the end in his eyes, like this little Jewish lady with a small, demeanor or whatever. And like, motivational speaker, like that. And it was, I swear to God, that's how it was. And then I called him, then we minute to speak, whatever. And then I met him again. He said, okay, come to this event. I start meeting more people and more people and more people. And he said, how long do you write your book? I'm like, 6 years. What? And you want to, you're one of these people that just writing and they never write their book. They just talk about it. I'm like, oh my God, he's right. I'm just talking about it. I'm not writing it, And I swear to God, listen to this. Every time he told me about something, he literally questioned me. And you know how people sometimes come to your life to give you a mirror? You want to kill them, you want to choke them, but they give you something additional to what you need that you don't know you need that, right? In a way. And he said to me, he said, every time I introduce you to someone, or I thought he didn't want to admit that he was wrong, right? But he see that I come through. But because you see my personality, I'm dyslexic. Even we had that problem that I'm like scared and I'm like, so he see that I come through with what I do, but I have to give it to him. He put me in perspective. Like he helped me put all of these things together, and hopefully next month my book is going to be ready. Like I met a lot of people, but with that being said, regarding spirituality, I think when you're very in tune with your intelligent being, right? When you're very, very in tune with the higher power, you can call it God, you can call it your intelligent being. I think it's all together, right? People will come to your life. They can hate you, but they make you resilient. They can criticize you, but they make you work harder, right? They can question you, but you want to prove them wrong. They cannot love you, right? But you learn to love yourself. They won't think you're attractive. You make yourself look and feel better. So for me, it's all about learning, right? And being in a mode of elevating all the time. And I'm not just saying it as a nice word. I'm saying it because I do really every day. Even you gave me amazing advices and I took them. I'm not going to talk about it now, but I took them. So that's it.
So I love those last few things you said. First of all, interesting that there are a few times on the conversation that you apologized and you didn't want to sound crazy. And
we all crazy.
I want to tell you a couple things. One, stop apologizing because what you are talking about when you are saying, sorry if this sounds crazy, is you being in close contact with the intelligent being inside of you. Every time you were like, uh-oh, this might sound crazy, it was really just an example of how your highest self was showing up and why it showed up in the moments that it did and pulled you out of that dark space where other people don't have that chance or they never make it. Why that happened, I don't know, but that it did happen to you so many times is not a thing to apologize for. It is a thing to celebrate and to let other people know is possible. Because in my story too, it showed up in all the ways it showed up, and it shows up constantly now that that intuitive voice, that divine intelligence, whatever you want to call it God, call it source, energy, blah, blah, blah. That is the most magnificent part of who I am. And if somebody thinks I'm crazy because I'm listening to it and I'm talking to it and I'm honoring what she says, then I feel sad for them because they're not there yet. And I hope they get there, right? So I just want to say that. And the other thing that I keep thinking about is, for the level of trauma that you've lived through, you said something earlier, which is that you had to learn from the earliest age, and it sounds like you've had to continue to do this, which is, if we talk about the nervous system for a second, really be on guard. You've had to be on guard
all the time, 24/7.
All the time, 24/7. And no shortage of that with what's happened to you here with your stalker. Okay. Like that's
she's still doing it, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. So on the one hand, yes, I'm hearing how connected you are to your highest self, and that you know how to get back to that place when you feel disconnected, and the freedom that gives you. And that I believe that that's where the greatest emotional freedom is for all of us in a world that is so out of control and scary sometimes. And at the same time, this part of you that's learned deeply in your bones and your nervous system to stay on guard at all times, no matter what. So I'm wondering, are you able to show up, especially in new places and new spaces with new people, new environments, with your guard down, with your awareness up, but this is something Brene Brown says, with a strong back and a soft front, which means you're aware, you're alert, you're taking all of your lived experience into the room with you, but your emotional armor is down. Your heart is open. Are you able to do that?
My heart is always open, by the way. I even, listen, I have mentors, but I'm also mentoring other people. Always, all the time. I'm trying to help people as much as I can. But with that being said, being Israeli, losing so many people in October 7th, losing people in the terror attack that I was, losing people my whole life as an Israeli person. And I'm not trying in some way to put Palestinian losses down, because in both sides of, when I'm talking politics right now, in both sides of the equation, if I'm honest, right, people lose people.
Yep.
People have trauma. These two sides of the fence live with so much trauma. Palestinians live with trauma because the Palestinian adults raise their kids, doctrinating them with, all things that they're not supposed to. Same thing in the other side, in the other hand, you understand? So for me, as an Israeli, leave my story aside. As an Israeli, they come from Israel, I could never sleep with, not sleep actually, with one eyes open, because I always have fear for my life. People want to kill me because I born in Israel. I never chose that, right? People will hate me because I'm Jewish. You have the Jewish burden in your head, because as a Jewish, you're just like Black people. You're going to always be the slave, even if you're not. That's the feeling you have when you grow up, when you know that your ancestry been like that, right? So live my individuality by myself. Just as me being Israeli from Israel, I could never sleep or come somewhere and feel 100%. I always feel people would hate me or judge me somehow. I always have to be apologetic somehow. I cannot disconnect myself from being Israeli. Put on top of that my trauma, my bad childhood, all the things that I went through. I think for the rest of my life, until I die, unfortunately, because when I took this guard, it didn't work good for me. You understand? Plus, as an Israeli, you grew up in a place that it's so highly tense that not just me, a lot of Israelis I know grew up even worse than me. They're always in a paradigm of 24/7 being with a finger on the pulse, checking what's going on. But for me, I can say, not in a bad, actually in a good way, for me, I don't even want to change that, because when I see all these people who live regularly and put the guards out, to me they look weak. Because this world, try to understand what I'm saying for a minute. We see the news, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, red carpet, work, family, everyday life, kindergarten, school, whatever it is. Underneath all this normal facade, sexual trafficking, kidnap, drugs, prostitution, solicitation, murder, trying to kill you for your organs. Underneath the world, it's a huge chaos. If you wake up in the morning and delusion yourself that everybody is normal and it's safe and you should trust people and the world is so amazing, I'm refused to live like that, because I really know how the world operates behind the scenes. You could see people with an amazing image, beautiful judge, lawyer, whatever you name it, with the best job, even doctors that I've seen, the best image in the world, and underneath they could be pervert, murderer, and I'm not just saying go kill people. They could get paid in order to kill people in a different way. I don't trust anybody. Everybody's always suspicious. I don't trust anybody until they prove themselves to me. And even in myself, I have doubts, because the scenario always changes. If it would be a fourth world war right now, third world war right now, right? I might need to sell my body to have bread. You understand? God forbid, it's going to be another Holocaust here and they're going to come and take me as a Jew. You never know what's going to happen. And I always keep that in mind, because people want to live like life is flowers and glitters and everything. But we always in this state, people who don't understand that you have to keep this little drawer of thinking like that in the back of your mind, they cannot survive life. Because as a woman, especially as a woman, you know, that we only have our prime is a very short thing. As a woman, it's really difficult in this world today of OnlyFans and prostitution. And sorry, can you hear me? Sorry, I had a phone. As a prostitution, as how the world completely changed today for a woman. Woman today, to be a mother is more embarrassing than to be a transgender. To be a mother today, it's more embarrassing than to have a career. It's better than to be a mother. Like, we change our values so much as human beings that you're no longer safe. As women, we so much damage that to ourselves. We so much destroy that to ourselves. They put aside what me as an individual went through all my life. Just being a normal woman, I cannot be that person who trusts.
You know what's really fascinating about this part of the conversation? And there's so many important things that you're saying. And I just want to clarify before I say what I'm going to say, that for me, you know, having your guard down around your heart does not mean turning a blind eye to the chaos and insanity of the real world. So I want to be clear about that, because
that's what I mean.
So the very reason you were attracted to me when I spoke was because I was vulnerable.
Exactly. Yeah, but
right.
You're vulnerable. No. Don't get it wrong. I didn't think you're vulnerable. The way you were speaking, and I'll phrase it exactly how I felt in this moment. When I saw you, I saw me. I knew that you're not blind to people. I knew that you're not blind to the world, but you're smart and strong enough to give a little vulnerability of who you are. You understand? You come that far to become a doctor, to be married, to have 2 kids, to live this amazing life that you created for yourself from the chaos. And you're not afraid to be vulnerable, because you know now you're in a position of power. You're not that junkie or whatever it is that you thought of yourself. Now you're in a position that you're not scared to be vulnerable, because you know you're in a stronger position to show this vulnerability.
Right.
I mean, I don't know if it makes sense, but that's how I saw it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, I guess, you know, this is a good place to kind of finish this talk, even though I think we could seriously talk about this one thing for another couple of hours. But, in my case, when I look around at my immediate family from young Samantha till this moment, and I'm talking just mom, dad, sister, each one of them in their own right had their own chaos and neglect and dysfunction, both when they were little and in adulthood. And they guarded up in very different ways. My dad was a gambler and a food addict, and I think an untreated, drug addict as well. Sister was a drug addict and a sex addict. Mom, prescription pill popper. Each one of them found a way to guard up, so to speak, to be like, find a way to not feel. My mom, in terms of emotional disposition, just stayed on the defense. Everybody was always out to get her. Everybody was an asshole. Everybody was going to hurt her. Everybody, so each one of them had a presentation.
I know that.
And I watched each of them die.
Physically die?
Well, slowly,
Decay.
spiritually first.
Decaying.
Okay. But in the case of my dad and my sister, physically. And my mom has had a severe mental illness, and she's been in and out of hospitals and institutions for the last 10 plus years of my life. And it's been a nightmare. And I believe so much of it is this deep, untreated trauma. And the work of my life, the work of my book, the work of me speaking on stages is to straddle the tension between being this strong, fierce woman who has survived and come out brilliant on the other side of the mess, and to show people that it's possible, but to continue to soften my heart so that I can still trust with discernment, not blindly, so I can have real love and real joy and real connection. Because I have not met anybody who gets to the end of their life and doesn't wish that they had more of that. Not more money, none of the shiny things, right? So there's this real finesse when you've been through serious trauma of absolutely being awake and aware and conscious and using it as a guidepost to not sleepwalk your way through life and pretend things are better when they're not. Absolutely. And also to stay vulnerable enough to have real connection, real intimacy, real friendship.
Yeah. No, this one I have those relationships.
Yeah. And so I guess let me finish by asking you, like, what's the most important relationship in your life right now?
I don't have any romantic relationship.
Doesn't have to be romantic.
Much, but okay. First of all, I have my two best friends since we're like 14. One of them, she was one of the top models of Vogue and Elle. She did like Calvin Klein, Chanel, everything in the 90s. Like if you see her face, you know who she is. She doesn't have a famous name, but if you see her face, we're born the same day, by the way. She also had the same relationship with her mom from Israel. She lives in New York. We go back and forth to each other. And my other best friend, Miri, one of them is Nina Brosh. She's like the biggest top model from the 90s. And the other one is Miri. She's like my friend, married to a Dutch person living in Amsterdam for 25 years, very successful. Both of them came from really bad homes and become amazing. So we all admire each other. And I don't have such a good relationship with my mom today, not even with my sister. With my sister, I tried for 15 years so much, but I come to recognition 2 months ago that I did it for almost 50 years. It's not gonna, it's not gonna change. It's so much you could do, right? And now the most important relationship in my life, it's with myself, because I think if my inner conversation not gonna be to have the best relationship with myself, I could not step when I meet the right man and have a good relationship with him. Because I think today is the first time in my life that, I raised my son alone for 21 years and took from myself a lot. Like I could not bring men home. I could not really participate in long-term relationships. I had to hide because I'm raising a son. I cannot have men coming in and out from my house. I'm strict like that. The first time that I'm super free, I can go, I can do what I want. And still I'm hesitating. Like I don't like random sexual relationship. I like to feel, me personally, I'm not judging anybody who do that, but I need to feel safe when I have intercourse relationship. I need to feel safe. I need to feel loved. I need to feel safe. I need to know that this guy wants me. Otherwise, it's hard for me to go there. And I learned from our conversation, you understand that I learned to protect myself. I'm not going to give myself to someone, then they disappear or doesn't call me. So it's super important to me to protect myself. Sometimes, of course, like I'm imagining myself with someone and having fun. And I'll say, oh, you know what? This one, no, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it. It doesn't matter what happened. Like I'm telling myself, and then the next one, no, I'm not going to do it. Because it's super important to me to control my urge and do things from a healthy, correct place than just to drive on this automatic urge that you have to do something because your body desires it. And in meditation, when I meditate, I always train myself that my mind control my body and not the opposite. So you could be horny or hungry or tired or whatever it is, but you need to control these urges because you have a brain which is like a computer that if you don't know really how to change your hard disk, what you do, it's not even important if you're not controlling that body. And it's take us to the addiction part. Just like addiction, we can be addicted to food, we can be addicted to sex, we can be addicted to anything. And if I don't control it, if I do control it, then what I'm going to gain in the end, I'm going to gain a real, fruitful, meaningful relationship. And that's what I want.
I love that. That was a great way to end. It was so fun to talk to you. So this is going to be a good one. You do have a story to tell. You really do. I'm really excited for people to have access to not simply what you've lived through. That would be easy to go, what? Wow. No, then what? That would be
the
so
conclusions
easy.
More.
Right. But what you have done with what you have been through is where the magic is.
I wanted to add something. First of all, I'm excited to your event that you're going to sing and dance. So I'm really excited. I never told you, but I told you I used to sing the opera.
I don't think I knew that was part of your background because if that's something you would ever do, which you don't have to speak at the thing I'm doing. It's just something that's really important to me in this last 2 years of kind of reckoning with wanting to bring all of who I am into different places. It's a thing that came back into my life 2 years ago that I wasn't expecting. And so now I'm like,
you want to hear something funny? This year, I got so many offers to sing professionally I know a lot of producers in LA. I don't know, somehow I got friendly with a lot of high profile producers, like, R&B and stuff. And they said, come to the studio, sing. But I tell you why I'm not singing. Because of my dysmorphia condition, my rhythm is not good. So I can sit in the studio for hours. If I don't have it correctly, I cannot be on tune, even though my voice is good, And plus, I'm not there. I'm not that person who wants to be a singer. You understand?
Yeah.
I mean, I love singing. I love doing, and I'll invite you, of course, in the winter. I do your Shabbat dinner with singing and guitar and microphone and everything, you name it. Every winter we do that. But I'm not there as a singer. But I would love to see you. And that's when you told me you're going to do the singing thing, I was excited because you kind of accomplished something that and I'm saying it not in the way you think, that I loved seeing you accomplish it because I know I could never do it. Even if somebody come down and say, I put you $200,000 for your own songs, I would not do it. You understand? So plus, I'm super excited for our events together. That I know you and me together, it's fire and wire because we both have interesting story. Hopefully we can fly to Israel after the war and speak. And
that'd be so cool.
Yeah, it would be amazing. I have a lot of connections there for this.
Yeah, I've never been to Israel. I would love to go there.
We should, yeah, we should. That's what I'm saying. After the war, hopefully God soon is gonna end. We're gonna go and do like event there. It could be amazing. You're gonna love it. And you see that Israel, it's not what people think in America. It's not a white supremacist. You have everything. Like if you go to Jerusalem around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you hear the mosque, Allahu Akbar, then you hear the Christian praying in Latin and the Jews praying, na, na, na. You hear it all together. It's so amazing. I love it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I love it.
Oh, so good to talk to you.
You too. We should do another one. Soon you're gonna come on my podcast and we're gonna talk about amazing, I'm telling this to your viewers, amazing things. How to combine the plastic world with the emotional world, how to come to an even place. I talk about my journey with beauty. You can talk about your journey.
Oh,
with
yeah.
beauty. When I say beauty, I'm talking in and out,
Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot to talk about.
Every time you inject, you want to refer something else inside and outside the same thing, at the same time. So I think it's going to be an amazing conversation. We're going to do it soon.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Me too. I'm excited.
Yay.
It was nice talking to you.
I know. So nice to talk to you.
Waking up, I hear the desperation call. I turn my back and hit my head against the wall. Don't need a crucifix to take me to my knees. Whipping my mistakes to jump over the grief. Breaking the circuit, making it worth it. Oh, sick and tired of the voice inside my head. Never good enough, it's leaving me for dead. But perfection's just a game of make-believe. Hey, gotta break the pattern, find a new reprieve. Breaking the circuit, making it worth it. Oh, I am ready to make a change. I am bigger than my pain. There's a knowing deep inside. I gotta let this life. I can be brave and afraid at the same time. Practice self-compassion, start to calm my mind. Taking tiny steps to loving all of me. Trust the process, cause it's gonna set me free. Breaking the circuit.